Hello, everybody.
So here's the issue. Here we are. We should have had some little thing playing, and it would not let me switch over the brand of the channel. So I'm over in the top right corner. Maybe one of you two can do it. We're live, by the way, folks. Welcome.
Yeah,
to the
I guess we were live. I feel like maybe we should just sing the theme song.
To the Mormon Newscast?
I'll try it. Okay. I'll see if I can do it. This will be a real kick in the head if I can do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Welcome to the groundbreaking news program that delves into the heart of Mormonism, your weekly window into the unique intersection of news, history, and culture that resonates with the tapestry of Mormonism. So whether you're tuning in from the heart of Utah or joining us from around the world, your favorite news program starts now, where news meets insight and the stories of our faith unfold.
Well, I can't tell you how proud of myself I am.
Take two. That's right. Thank you, RFM, for saving the day technology-wise. I do feel, however, that we could have probably done it. RFM and I could have hummed the going on, and Bill could have said the words. I think we could have done it. So yes. I don't know. Welcome, everybody, to the Mormon Newscast. It is Monday. It is December the 2nd of 2024. I can't believe we're already here in December, and we're going to talk about how important that is in a minute. I am joined by my very festive co-host here, Radio Free Mormon. How are you tonight?
Feeling very technologically adept. Thank you.
You're the man. You saved it. And Bill, how are you doing tonight?
The opposite of him.
Good. You know, people like a peek behind the scenes. And that kind of showed how we scramble and go, oh my God, what is happening? So
we were actually just saying before the show started, it was 3 minutes till, and it's like, hey, we're not scrambling around like we usually are. What are we going to do with these 3 minutes except sit here and relax?
No.
You guys all missed it, by the way. I start the show. I have the thumbnail up. I try to change the theme over to the Mormon Newscast. It won't go. And you two are down below like, let's do it. And I'm like, I don't know what to do because I'm sort of frozen here. I can't do anything the way I want to. So we'll just go
live. And now it's 15 seconds into live, and we're going, and now.
And hi, everybody. That's right. Yeah. It's okay. I think we covered, hopefully everyone will forgive us. So before we start, I would like to say thank you to all of our viewers, because I've been kind of under the weather for about the last 2 weeks. I had shingles, look it up. It's an old person disease. And then that quickly turned into bronchitis. So I've literally been flat in bed for about 2 weeks. And I just have to say it's interesting because, when you kind of step onto the other side of Mormonism, you do have that thought in your head, gosh, my ward family, they used to bring me soup. They used to do this. They used to check on me. What will happen to me, if something like that happens where I'm sick? And it's been really meaningful to me. All the people I don't even know, some that I do know, some that I don't, that have just reached out and said, hope you're feeling better, or try this tip, or I had that, or, just a cheerful message, a text, an email. I have to say that RFM himself, it was wonderful at first, got a little old by the end, called about every half an hour to make sure I was okay.
Well, you weren't picking up.
I wasn't. I'm not kidding. I don't think I've ever been this sick, but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody out there, because that was really meaningful just to know that, people care. I think we all care about each other. So I think that's awesome.
Steve Heinecker was getting excited. He thought maybe he'd have a new gig.
It's very possible. That's right.
My
right, slot might have been open. Nope. I clawed my way back from the brink. I took 1 million cough drops. I am not giving up this seat. I love the newscast and our audience. So, all right, let's dig into our first slide. Like I said, December is important for the newscast, and I will show you why with a drum roll. It is the first birthday. The very first week of December is when we started last year. I actually have my cure-all for my bronchitis is cupcakes. So I actually have a dessert to celebrate the happy first birthday. So what do you guys think? The fact that we've made it a whole year, and I looked it up, we have done 48 episodes. So that means there were a few holidays that we took off. There were a couple days like that, but for the most part, we were going strong for the entire year.
That's true. And you know something? I just want to know, after you eat that cupcake, I want you to tell us if there's a chalky aftertaste.
Why do you think I'm eating cupcakes? The chalky aftertaste of the cold medicine, I wash it down with the cupcake. That's how I roll.
Chalky aftertaste may play into our first story.
Oh, I don't want to know about that.
You didn't get it when I was texting you that earlier?
No, I'm loaded on cold medicine. My humor is slightly off. I'm doing the best I can. So, Bill, what are your thoughts on the fact that it's our very first anniversary. That's pretty amazing.
It doesn't feel like it's been a year. It feels like we haven't been doing it that long. And
I
so
know.
it's really cool I think it says a lot about the fun we're having, and that this is an enjoyable show to do with the two of you. So I'm happy that we're 1 year in.
Me too. And I think it's because it's a really dynamic show as far as something new every week. And we're always kind of keeps us on our toes, looking at the news, seeing what's going on, having your finger on the pulse of, Mormon social media. So yeah, it keeps us sharp. I like that. So speaking of news stories, this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. The Mormon Dentist murderer. Of course, RFM will be covering that. Who else? BYU, Arizona. Kerfuffle, that's Bill's story. A Mormon reality TV realtor. That's kind of hard to say. That's my story. Mormon, non-Mormon dating in Utah. This has been in all the news for the last couple weeks. And then we're going to have an update on the Fairview Temple mediation. So lots of really good stories tonight. I hope everybody sticks around to the end. And I think we'll let RFM go ahead with your first terrifying story.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Yes, this is a story that I've been researching recently, and I did not know a lot about it. But now that I do, I got to tell you, this is one of the craziest cases, one of the craziest criminal cases I've ever come across, whether in private practice or reading about them. This one is a humdinger. Police say Mormon dentist killed wife by lacing shakes with poison. Here is the dentist in question, and there is his former wife, now deceased. This is, we'll get to their names here in a second. James Craig is the dentist in question. James Craig is a Colorado dentist who graduated from Brigham Young University. He is a Mormon. In March of last year, 2023, James Craig was arrested on suspicion of murdering his wife, Angela Craig, by mixing poison in her pre-workout shakes. Now, these were workouts that she did, and he did with her apparently at home. So that's how he was able to do this. Allegedly. The poison he allegedly used was cyanide and arsenic, and not at the same time, at different times, because the first time didn't do the trick. James Craig had unique access to these substances because he is a medical doctor and ordered them under the premise that he needed them for his dental practice. He actually said in one case that he was inventing a new procedure, and it was going to be written up in Scientific Dentistry, or whatever the heck the name of the magazine is for dentists. And here's some pictures. Here is James Craig in happier times on the left. I'm guessing he's dressed as the Tooth Fairy. There's his wife up there in a solo shot. There they are with her kissing him on the cheek. And down below are a couple of interesting text messages between the two at the time that he allegedly poisoned her, or just after it. She texts him saying, "That drink you gave me tastes weird." He says, "Good to know. I won't drink one." She says, "It wasn't bad necessarily. It just had kind of a very faint, subtle, chalky aftertaste." And he says, "Yuck." Then later on, she says, "I feel drugged." And he says, "Given our history, I know that must be triggering," because apparently he had drugged her before, like 5 years ago. Anyway, that's a whole different story. But that's the context for this. "I know that must be triggering, given our history, that you feel drugged. Just for the record, I didn't drug you. I am super worried, though. You really looked pale before I left, like in your lips even." So those are some of the somewhat interesting text messages between the two. So James Craig had a partner in his dental practice, Ryan Redfearn. Redfearn became aware James Craig was ordering potassium cyanide for the dental office. He was also aware there was no use for potassium cyanide in the dental office, and mentioned this to a nurse at the hospital when Angela Craig was later admitted. According to police, James Craig also Googled incriminating interrogatories on his computer, such as, "Is arsenic detectable in autopsy?" and "How much arsenic will kill a person?" That last one is actually, I think, how many grams are necessary to kill a person. Now, I have read a number of articles on this subject. I also accessed the probable cause affidavit in this matter, which was around 60 pages long. It's a very long probable cause affidavit. And I've got to say that the officer who did that affidavit did an incredible job with a complicated case of making everything pretty understandable. And I thought that was an amazing feat. And maybe at some other time on an RFM show, I'll just go through the affidavit of probable cause, because it alone is a gripping read. So here's a couple pictures now of our hero, James Craig. And here's one on the left, one on the right, where it looks like he's younger, maybe back in dentistry school. Police allege James Craig, put the potassium cyanide in one of his wife's pre-workout shakes on March 6, 2023, resulting in her being rushed to the hospital later that day. But Angela Craig did not die immediately. Instead, she improved and was released on March 14, 2023, only to be rushed back into the hospital the following day, where she was declared brain dead not long after. Police allege James Craig had ordered a rush shipment of arsenic. Now, this is different than the cyanide. A rush shipment of arsenic be delivered to the dental office for surgery. James Craig, thinking ahead, told the office manager, "Don't open this package when it arrives, because it's addressed to me, it's private, don't open it." But another employee opened the package, and then the office manager was taking it into his office to deliver it. She looks inside because it's open, sees what's written on top of this canister, which looks really, really strange. Okay. Ends up being reported to authorities. It is believed the arsenic is what sent Angela Craig back to the hospital the final time. Here's a booking photo of James Craig. Police having been tipped off, they allegedly intercepted a third poison James Craig had ordered to be delivered to his dental practice, oleandrin. He wasn't taking any chances here. Oleandrin is a poison found in the leaves of the oleander plant. Motive? ? Police allege James Craig had started an affair with a female dentist who flew into Aurora, Colorado for visits with him while his wife lay dying in the hospital. Now, by the way, I don't mean to offend anybody if you get concerned about a dentist versus a surgeon, because I think she was a surgeon of teeth, right, and jaws. So I'm just saying a dentist. At any rate, 2 days before Angela Craig was declared brain dead, this woman texted James Craig that she did not feel it was right to mix in with the other mourners because she would have to conceal what I feel for you, police allege. Now, interestingly enough, a lot of names are redacted in this very long affidavit, and yet they included a screenshot of the actual airplane tickets from Austin, which is where this female dentist or surgeon lives, to Denver, and the dates of that. And on this, you'll notice they also give her name, which was Karen Kathleen, and then you can see over here it's Kane. Karen, that's Karin, Kathleen middle name, Kane last name, Cain, and it gives the dates that she was flying up there. They also left her name on the email that she sent to James Craig on March 16th, 2023. And this is what it says. It's under the headline of Seeing You. "Hi, honey," it starts out. "I am so sorry for what has transpired this week in your world. I am sorry I am not a part of your world to be of more help to you. And instead, I am pulling you away. This is so hard. I want to be and do whatever I can to support and encourage you, and I don't want to add to what has become an incredibly difficult time. I can't imagine what it is doing to you to walk your kids through this. I do want to give you any comfort I can, but I do not feel it is right for me to mix in with all of those gathering to mourn Angela either. And I do not want to meet your family as a friend and try to conceal what I feel for you. I am praying for you and seeking God's wisdom for this time." I like that line. I am praying for you and seeking God's wisdom for this time. I love you. Karen K. Kane, DDS and MS. Kane Orthodontics, which is located, coincidentally enough, at 1900 Mormon Mill, Suite F1. And that is in, where is it? It's Can we see that, Bill? Here, let's see. Marble Falls, Texas, just outside Austin. Okay, so that is the email they sent, or excuse me, that she sent to James Craig, and which was included. You see, they redacted a little bit of it, but not her name. I'm sorry. This is how her name became public. Oh, I actually had already included one that was a closer up. Here's Dr. Karen Kane, DDSMS. This is from her own website. And also, I wanted to say that after this happened and after she was kind of brought to the forefront by her name and the address of her business, so everybody knew who she was, she went on Good Morning America for an interview in which she said that she had no idea that this was going on. She knew he was married, that he had told her that he was going through a divorce. He's living separate from his wife in an apartment. She herself is going through a divorce. They met up at a conference, and then, magic happened. So here's a brief bit of this Good Morning America interview so you can see what it is she says. I do think it's important to give her a chance to clear her name because it looks so damning. Just the evidence in the affidavit of probable cause, which I think why she went on Good Morning America. Thank you, Bill.
It's a story that made national headlines earlier this year. The shocking death of a beloved mother of 6, Angela Craig, who died after a mysterious illness. Her family remembers her for being a fiercely devoted parent and friend. Soon after, her husband arrested for allegedly poisoning her. According to the arrest affidavit, authorities suggest he had murdered his wife to be with another woman. But that woman now says their connection was built on lies. You've been labeled the mistress in this story.
Yeah, I don't like that label. If I had known what was true, I would not have been with this person.
In total, how long were you together with James Craig?
I want to say it lands right exactly at 3 weeks.
Do you think that James Craig allegedly poisoned his wife to clear the deck so he could be with you?
There's no way I'm motive. There's been no planning a future together.
When Texas orthodontist Karen Kane met Dr. James Craig at a dental conference last February, she wasn't looking for love. She was in the process of a divorce from her husband of almost 30 years.
We met on a Thursday and then went home on Saturday. So we spent this Thursday evening getting to know each other. And then we texted until 4 a.m. that night. Then the next day we, spent pretty much the day together.
They seemed to have shared values, a strong faith. Their children, their number one priority, and both seemed to be in a similar place. She says he told her he was also deep in the divorce process.
He told me they hadn't been living together. He had an apartment.
After the conference, the two remain in constant contact.
It was just consistent from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. There was a lot of just feeling so connected.
Pretty soon, they're making plans for Karen to visit him in Colorado. She says an initial trip falls through and is rescheduled. And the day before Karen arrives in Denver, Angela's health takes a horrific turn. She suffers a seizure, is on life support, and is not expected to
survive. Right. So that's the end of that clip. I mean, it goes on for over 5 minutes. If you want to find it, you can find it on YouTube. And you can also find the affidavit of probable cause if you do a little bit of looking. Now, this case is weird enough. By the way, I mean, who's not going to believe what she says, that this guy would be lying to her about the status of his marriage in order to move along what he wanted to have as an affair with her? So I got no reason to disbelieve her on that. But a new twist. In June 2024, by the way, that clip was from July of last year, 2023, on Good Morning America. New twist in June 2024. This case has got a lot of twists. The Denver Gazette, Carol McKinley writing, according to court documents, in the months leading up to Mrs. Craig's death, her husband asked a woman with whom he appeared to be romantically involved to help him kill her. And I add, guess what? It isn't Karen Kane. On February 2nd, 2023, he wrote, Carrie Hadgeseth. Do you know anyone who can help me with my problem down here? I can pay handsomely. I want to be with you. The next day, James Craig suggested that, quote, hitting up a homeless person actually sounds like the only choice right now. He added, I feel so trapped, according to court documents. By the way, can I just say, divorce is always an option. if you feel trapped in a marriage that you don't like, go see an attorney, file for divorce. Don't start planning to kill somebody and trying to enlist other people to do your dirty work for you. Just some advice. The text message conversations between James Craig and Hajiseth were found by Aurora Police Detective Bobby Joe Olson this past February. They started January 14th, 2023 and ended a month later. Okay. So apparently right before he meets Karen Kane. There's that picture. We've seen that before. 6 children. None of them are adults. I mean, their oldest might be 19 or 20, just going by his face, because in the Daily Mail, they didn't redact their faces. But I'm talking about the kid here in the red hoodie. I think he's the oldest. Just looking. Another new twist. James Craig charged with attempt to tamper with evidence. According to the detective named Olson, remember Bobby Joe? Around July of 2023, and after being arrested and held in custody, James Craig, told another inmate about the charges he faces and asked the inmate to place letters in his garage and truck at his home. And of course, this is at James Craig's home once he gets out, right? Olson testified, and this is the detective. Olson testified that the letters were written from inside the jail. The letters are coming from inside the jail and were meant to appear as if Angela Craig had written them. According to Detective Olson, the letters were supposed to convey that Angela was not happy with life, was suicidal, and had learned about her husband's affair. The intent was for law enforcement or defense attorneys to find the letters. Detective Olson testified. The inmate was allegedly under the impression that Craig wrote the letters. Well, his wife sure as hell didn't. That Craig wrote the letters. According to the detective, in exchange for placing the letters, Craig offered the inmate free dental work or money for bond. Can you imagine that? Well, free dental work from a guy who whacked his wife. Sign me up for that. Allegedly. The inmate did not take Craig up on the offer. Smart inmate, Detective Olson said, and instead contacted law enforcement. Here's another picture of our dentist, James Craig. Yet another new twist. On November 21st of 2024, the day that after several continuances, the matter was scheduled to begin trial. With jury selection, the case was scheduled to go to trial on November 21st, when on the morning of jury selection, James Craig's defense attorney quit on the morning of jury selection. That's the first day of trial. The trial has been delayed before and was set to begin Thursday with jury selection, KDVR reported. However, on Thursday morning, the defense counsel moved to withdraw from the case due to a professional conflict, according to the 18th Judicial District Attorney's Office. The judge allowed the withdrawal under the rules of professional conduct, and Craig declined to represent himself, delaying the case, of course. His next court appearance is scheduled for December 16th, and that will be for him to get more legal representation or different legal representation. So, when an attorney shows up on the morning of trial and moves to withdraw, citing a professional conflict, which the attorney cannot go into any more detail about because it would be revealing confidences between him and his client, usually means one of two things. One of which is he either knows now, he's come into possession of knowledge that his client actually is guilty and did the crime. And usually that can only come about by the client telling the attorney that that's what happened. That is the rule. Lots of I follow that rule. I know of other attorneys who don't follow that rule, and they're going to represent him anyway, regardless of whether they admit it to him. Second reason may be is that the person, in this case, the defendant client, is going to take the stand and is going to lie to the court. So that gives a conflict of interest to an attorney who has a duty to his client, but also a duty to not defraud the court. And sometimes that's taken care of by going to the judge during trial and saying, my client's going to testify. I'm just going to ask him to tell a story, and I don't ask him any questions. So I'm not actually eliciting testimony from him by asking questions. I'm just having him tell a story. All attorneys know this. The jury's not supposed to know this. So it looks kind of the same. But something happened here. It was probably along those lines. And his attorney was allowed to withdraw on the morning of trial. This was not his first attorney. He had a dream team, I think, of attorneys before this, several attorneys that had quit or withdrawn prior to this. prior to his getting this attorney. Once again, the mugshot. And yet another new twist. Dentist charged with killing wife by poisoning her shakes is now accused of trying to have the detective killed. I believe this is Detective Olson. This is from December 2nd, today's date, 2024, from Molly Markowitz of Fox News. Colorado dentist James Tolliver Craig allegedly tried to get fellow jail inmate to kill detective investigating wife's death. So when things didn't go well with the first inmate about planning the letters allegedly written by his wife saying she's suicidal, what the heck, let's go ahead and talk to another inmate and see if he'll kill the detective who's investigating the case. This is just allegedly, of course. There he is once again. The certificate of excellence is apparently not in committing and carrying out murders. A Colorado dentist accused of killing his wife by poisoning her protein shakes now faces a new charge for allegedly attempting to get a fellow inmate to murder a detective investigating his homicide case. Authorities believe Craig allegedly tried to get another inmate in the Arapahoe County Jail to kill an Aurora police detective who was working on the investigation into Angela's 2023 death. According to court records and multiple sources familiar with the investigation, KUSA reported. Joe Moylan, an Aurora police spokesman, told CBS News that the intended victim of the alleged plot was an Aurora detective. I think, once again, it's probably Detective Olson, since she seems to have been working on this from the get-go. Okay, and that is the end of that story. So, what do you think about it? I still think it's one of the craziest stories I've encountered in a long time.
I'm just surprised you hadn't been following it last year. I think a lot of us had, and now update after update, and there it is. So I know people say, oh, we're too focused on Mormonism. That's why we think there are so many Mormon murders. But I'm sorry, there are so many scenarios like this. There's a woman kind of in my area who murdered her husband with poison and then wrote a children's book about death, that kids can read and try to come to terms. I mean, it's almost like you can't make these up. And I don't know if Mormon murder happens because we're so focused on the family and the next life, no divorce. It's better that everyone just move to the next life, if it's not working out. I don't know what the motivation is, but nobody seems to follow your advice, RFM. There are other avenues. If you must detangle yourself, there are other ways to do it where people will be okay. And just the idea of this woman trusting, I was reading some of the comments, the trust, hey, babe, here's your shake. Thanks, babe. Let's go work out. The idea that someone in cold blood can be adding something to that to hurt someone. I mean, that's a monster to have that level of trust and to do something like that.
He's got a squeeze coming out. I mean, he's got another squeeze the month before asking if she'll, kill his wife. Apparently she declines. So he says, got to do it myself. So he goes ahead and does it. And allegedly, and while his wife is dying in a hospital from the poison he gave her, he's flying out his new girlfriend from Austin, Texas.
3 weeks. I mean, how do you know someone for 3 weeks and decide that this is a reason to get rid of your wife, change everything? I don't understand that.
By the way, apparently he invited her to come and be with the gathered family.
Funeral.
Because that's what she's declining and saying she doesn't think it would be a good idea.
Oh, no, people do this.
Responding to accept an invitation from him.
Yeah. No, somebody mentioned in the comments the doctor who killed his wife in the bathtub. Also in my ward, right? Also that funeral, McNeil. And he also invited his girlfriend, Nanny is what he was calling her, to be with the family during those days following the death. I don't know what people think they can get away with. I have no response. Bill, do you have a response?
What do you think, Bill? I think that the reason that so many Mormons murder their spouses is because divorce is frowned upon in the Mormon church.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's a crazy way of thinking about it. I'll just say that Adeline maybe is the name of this. I'll just go with her comment. This is unhinged. This guy plotting every step along the way is going to get him caught in trouble. And he just keeps doing one step after the other, ordering 3 poisons.
Yes.
emails back and forth, messages where you sort of admit to poisoning her in the past, drugging her in the past, I should say.
His story, and there may be some truth in it, is that about 5 years ago, he had threatened suicide and she got all upset about it. So he gave her some drugs to calm her down.
Yeah.
She's still with the guy after,
Yeah.
I think he's on the verge of a second bankruptcy because he gambles all of his money away. And he's been through multiple affairs that his wife knows about, and she was still with him.
I know there's some data out there. I know there's a cliche about dentists and sort of mental health.
Is there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think suicide is really high among dentists, for instance.
Wow.
And I don't know a lot of dentists. I'm just going to leave the story alone. But this is as crazy. You're right, RFM, especially you being in the legal field and all the cases you've seen. You've participated in some that are pretty serious. You watch the news and you see other cases. This is just cray. But oh my goodness.
I could give hints about things he did wrong and what you don't want to replicate if you don't want to get caught, but I won't do that here.
Yeah. No, please don't.
Yep. Well, I hope you'll update us, RFM, if anything else happens or he tries to kill anyone else from within jail, and we'll see what happens.
Could be me now. I don't know.
Well, I feel like it could be. It could be his lawyer who backed away, whatever the dynamic there was. I mean, I'd be a little nervous if I was his lawyer also, but
if he calls Cardinellis, maybe he won't charge so much.
It sounds like no one is willing to do what he wants them to do wisely. So hopefully everybody's okay. But yeah, we'll keep you updated on this. So, all right, let's move to our next story, which I think is Bill's story, right? About BYU. This is kind of one that was kind of hot. I think end of last week, this was a big one.
Yeah. So if we go back to November 23rd, BYU Cougars played the Arizona State Sun Devils. Both teams have a really good record. Both are fighting for college playoffs. And so this game had a lot at stake. It ended up going down to the end. So at halftime, BYU is down by a little bit, but they came back in the third quarter. The game came down to the very end, just seconds left, and the Arizona fans rushed onto the field with still 1 second left. And each college football team is responsible to keep fans from doing this, but the fans rushed on anyway. They all had to be cleared back off. There was still 1 second left. BYU threw a Hail Mary, and the catch was actually made, but it was a few yards short of the goal line. Didn't quite make it into the end zone. And so it was sort of one of these dramatic finishes. Fans ran onto the field a second time, which was quite chaotic. And so the first part of this story is that, which sort of Arizona's responsible sort of for their fans and weren't able to keep them under control. And so ASU, Arizona State University, was fined by the Big 12 for multiple field storms, meaning the player or the fans running on, that ended with the win against BYU. And they were actually fined $25,000 by the Big Ten Conference. But that's not the bigger story. The bigger story is that Tyler Batty, defensive end for BYU, returned missionary, I think, gave a halftime speech that contained lots of explicatives. And I'll just note that it clearly violates what the church would call the honor code there at Brigham Young University. So the church educational system, the very top one there, is just noting that they do have an honor code and what that is. And then one of the articles noted that Batty's speech was in direct violation of one of the honor code rules, quote, respect others, including the avoidance of profane and vulgar language. So swearing and cursing is against the rules at BYU. And this ended up getting, and let me say it this way. There was a video that was recorded at halftime by what appears to be, and we'll get to this in a moment, appears to be by somebody from the other team, somebody who worked for the stadium, somebody who worked for the team, not a player or anything, but somebody who had access to the BYU locker room. And the way it's supposed to work is that teams are supposed to, just so there's no cheating, have privacy away from any other team's officials. The visitor team locker room is completely off limits to the home team and vice versa. Otherwise, you sort of would be seen as tampering or setting up a space where cheating could occur. And so the Big 12 is investigating the leaked video recording of the BYU locker room speech, not because of the language, but because of an alleged interference by the other team or an employee of the other school, Arizona State University. And the video is out there. You can go listen to it. There's tons of explicatives in it, so we won't play it here on the newscast, but you can go find it there. I think it's TikTok there. Salt City Sports is the channel, and you can go watch it. At the very end of the video, you see the person who's holding the camera, their arm with the pink or like magenta colored wristband on. And that wristband is what the personnel of the other team would have to signify that they worked for that. So that's how they have the suspicion that it was somebody from the other team or that school working that day that had access to the locker room that shouldn't have and recorded that video. Now, I'll just say this about the story. The bigger story here for the newscast is the idea that BYU has an honor code, and students promise to keep that honor code. And this kid is a football player. And by no means am I suggesting that he should be punished for some bad words. Who cares? What I would want to note is that you will almost certainly not see the school punish Tyler Batty, and they shouldn't. But I want to note the double standard that if somebody is not bringing money into the school, if somebody isn't part of the football program, they're not a sports player, and they had done something on this same level, national news about bad language in some video, you can bet that BYU would be doing something. And we all should know, and maybe many of us already do, that if a student, non-members can go to BYU, and they can be non-members their entire life. They never have to join Mormonism, and they get to go to the school. They just have to promise to obey the same rules. If a member of the church goes to Brigham Young University and loses their testimony, and it comes out, so the school finds out and chooses to punish the kid, which happens all the time, that kid is expelled from the school without access to their transcript. They essentially lose all of their credits. And I just want to note, when BYU chooses to punish people and when it doesn't. And so I'm definitely not calling for punishment of Tyler Batty. What I am saying is that maybe the school should consider figuring out ways to be fair to all students and not punish young adults early in their life for simply figuring out that their religion isn't true. And that would be my 2 cents. And that's the end of that story. Back to you, Rebecca.
Yeah, this is such an interesting story to me, having gone to BYU, worked at BYU, you know, back when you could afford tickets, having tickets to all the different sports and everything. And I think just to understand the scene, halftime, they're down, right? They're losing. Here's the team captain. He's standing there in the locker room. What do you say? I mean, you say, you guys, you're playing like da-da-da-da-das. I mean, this is what you say, right? We all know athletes. I'm the mother of boys that are athletes. That's the kind of passion it takes, you know, to be a team leader, to get your team together. And we can make jokes, you know, I even myself was making jokes. Like he said, come on, dummies. You guys are so silly. Just play, you know. No, that's not the kind of language that's called for there. And these kids are recruited because of their passion, their commitment, their ability to lead. And in that situation, I'm sorry, no other word will do. So I really hope, sorry, cough lozenge. I really hope, like Bill said, that nothing happens to this kid, because he was doing exactly what they recruited him for. And they did come back out after halftime, and they did improve their performance. So I was worried as soon as I saw the article and read it. I thought, they had better not do anything to this kid, because, I mean, despite, like you said, the difference where a normal student would be in trouble, this kid was doing what he was supposed to do. He's supposed to lead his team, motivate his team, you know, get them up. It's like it's like Henry V RFM, St. Crispian's Day speech, right?
Yes.
Where he gets up there. Yeah. Everybody has those amazing speeches that they give to try to rally the troops, rally the team. And
the difference is that Henry V did not use any curse words or expletives.
You know what, though? His tone was like that, and he was waving his sword around. I mean,
Well, this guy's not in trouble for his tone.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Everybody go listen to the thing. I was kind of proud of him. You know what? he really got his point across. So I don't know. That's just my take. I really hope nothing happens to this kid. I keep calling my kid a young adult because he was doing what he was supposed to do out there in the field of athletics. So RFM, what do you think?
I think it's an interesting story. I will wait to see what BYU does.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect that they can't let him off completely, but they can give him a slap on the wrist in order to show that the law has been answered and to avoid accusations of double standards in the future.
I mean, what about J. Golden Kimball, right? He used to say quite a few things from the pulpit. And
I don't think he ever called anybody a pussy.
I don't think that word was around back when. I don't think that word was around when he was talking. He probably would have used it if it was. So I don't know. Anyway, all right. Thank you for that coverage. That was great. My alma mater, BYU. Let's move on to the next story here, which I think is mine. I'm calling this the Mormon media moment because it seems like every week we have something to talk about that's out there in Mormon media. I just put this slide together. Of course, we've got Heretic still playing big in the theaters. I had the chance to go to a screening that John DeLynn put on and talk to some of the producers, writers. It was amazing. I've seen it 3 times now. Every time a different takeaway. Just amazing.
I'm sorry, that screening was a week ago tonight, wasn't it?
It was. And I know at the time. Okay. So I had shingles. Then one night I rose up out of my sickbed and felt great and went to that. The next day, dropped dead in bed.
Right. And before that, you were telling us that you couldn't make it on the newscast. Yeah, and then we found out later that you'd gone out on the town to some kind of screening. It wasn't
really out on the town. It was called rallying at the 11th hour when you get a phone call and you're like, sure, I'll try. So I did. I admit it looks bad. It probably is bad. Anyway, Heretic doing awesome. We've got Secret Lives of Mormon Wives renewed for another season. The Real Housewives, of course, I don't even know what season they're up to. They're going strong. We have a movie coming out in January, American Primeval, about the Mountain Meadows Massacre. But the one I'm going to mention tonight is one that's going to premiere on Bravo on Wednesday. And this is really interesting. It's called Sold on Salt Lake City. And again, all LDS or LDS adjacent cast. And these are realtors that are out there making the big bucks in Salt Lake because it is a hot market out here. I'm telling you, nobody can afford anything except for these beautiful people. So I think we will start with a little promo here if Bill can play that.
I am Jennifer Yo, CEO of Presidio Real Estate. The amount of women that create brokerages in the state of Utah and succeed, I would say 1%.
Do I look like a boss?
Yeah.
Good. When I started the brokerage, I literally couldn't even afford a printer. But last year, we sold $1.2 billion. And I couldn't have done it without the best team in the business.
I'm feeling like chartering a helicopter, hang glide down into it. I mean, that's cool. That's cool.
Will you give us an opening prayer?
And dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day.
God is in this brokerage. People in Utah might follow the 10 commandments, but at my brokerage, we follow the Jen commandments. Thou shalt always be selling.
Potentially have 3 laundries.
Women in Utah County are going to love that.
We have to have a guest house. We want a spray tan station. We have to have a salon in our house.
You have a buyer? No?
Thou shalt always be professional.
If you can't take the heat, stay out of the strip club.
Shots on the entrance.
Only in real estate can you drink on the job. I don't fully agree with our church as far as drinking and partying. Of course I get side-eyed, but in my mind, I'm looking at them like this and then going like this. Does anyone know what this means in Utah? Are you a swinger?
She's a swinger.
As women in this industry in a male-dominated state, you got to grow a pair.
What is happening over there? Yes!
And I'm talking a pair of these because I feel like women are stronger than men.
Thou shalt not steal my agents. 2 of my brokers go over to your brokerage. It feels like some shady business going on.
I have nothing to hide. I'm pretty much sleeping with the enemy. Oopsie. Sorry, Jen.
Thou shalt never let emotions ruin a deal.
You've been offended for a year?
You call me gold digger.
What I thought was a friendship was just business.
Thou shalt never speak unkindly of another agent. You don't ever tell a girl to calm down.
I don't give a. You 3 are insatiable.
Victim, victim, victim.
to tell you something wild. I have it. So that if you listen.
What else is he hiding?
You have a secret.
What do you know that I don't know?
You know what I know.
Matt. Yeah. My mic's off. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Call me inmate instead of agent.
That's very in for 2024 black and white stripes.
So who's going to watch this, Rebecca?
Everybody is going to watch it. Are you
Really?
kidding? Although I
Well,
did see some
praying.
people in the chat saying make it stop. So maybe
Little
not
kid
every.
praying, and please help my mommy stop drinking, and please
Thank
help my
you for
mommy
this day.
stop swinging, and please help my mommy sell the houses.
Mommy, I want to go in the spray tan center. Okay. Yes, I do live in the heart of Utah County, and none of that is exaggerated at all. I'm not kidding. So what I find really interesting about this, and I'll just go into a little bit more detail and then we'll move on. I know some people are weak. I'm sorry. So remember all the fuss and the media statements from the church about heretic and about secret lives? There's nothing that I can find about this. Maybe someone else can find it. I've been looking, and so it just makes me think maybe the church, I mean, their claim about the other programs where this does not represent Mormonism, right? So maybe a show where you're a cutthroat business person rising to the top, stepping on everyone around you, no ethics, no morals. Maybe they can't quite make that claim. I don't know. Fully immersed in MLMs and the tech sector, I'm not sure why they have not come out equally strongly against this, because it seems to have a lot of the same elements as some of the other programs. So the Tribune came out and said, meet the latest Salt Lake City reality star, a Utah real estate broker. Bravo is sold on SLC. And they did get their start by one of them appearing on The Real Housewives and brokering a deal for one of the housewives. And then, so kind of a spin-off scenario where that's how she got to be known. So it says sold on Salt Lake City shows Yao and 5 of her agents as they navigate the Utah real estate market, meeting well-off clients, showing homes to prospective buyers. It also highlights the agents and their interpersonal drama. And because this is Bravo, there's plenty of drama to be had, as you could see by all the women and men crying profusely in that clip we just saw. Utah has been ranked the 8th most expensive housing market among all 50 states. And Yale says, and our real estate values have gone up dramatically in the last 10 years. I think that the nation is starting to look at us and go, what the heck is going on over there? And this is very true, extremely true. And I will tell you, it's because you have tech on one side and MLMs on the other side. There is extreme wealth in Utah, and it's the kind of wealth that people like to show by their guest house. And there's Freytown Center and all of that. It's a side of Mormonism that I think the church probably hopes people don't recognize, but it is absolutely alive and well and there, and people can afford this. Sold on Salt Lake City also emphasizes, at least early in the series, the influence of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on the agents' lives. I'm sure you could see that reflected in the promo, the influence of the church on their lives. Yes. And Utah's culture. How did she pronounce it? Yo? Yay? I'm saying it wrong.
I think it's just like yo.
Yeah. Identifies, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, identifies as a former member of the faith, while Martindale identifies herself as Christian. So different people are different stages of Mormonism. They're estimated that about half of the business clients are LDS. And I think the world looks at LDS people and they're peculiar and they love learning about them. It's always woven to all our lives here in Utah, whether you're LDS or not, you don't get to get away from it. So as we saw, there's a clip of a little girl saying a prayer, just like in Secret Lives. I think they're going to show the agents at home. And according to these bios here, I'll just read these really quick and then we'll get away from this segment. All of them seem to have quite a lot to do with the church. So Tanya Edwards is a mother of 2, a lesbian and former member of the Latter-day Saint faith, who in the first episode confronts another agent on a rumor that could hurt her business in selling to the Latter-day Saint clients. So she's playing that delicate dance of, having to get along with the LDS. Malaysia is a married mother of 4. Her bills herself as Mormon 2.0, which is a phrase we learned in The Real Housewives. And she is back at the firm after leaving to a competing firm for a year. Matt Jones, a married father of 4 and devout Latter-day Saint. So one of those guys there that you saw in the clip is a devout Latter-day Saint, and he's struggling to take his business to the next level.
Is that the guy with the abs?
I can't tell. There were two guys. They were both crying and they both had abs. That's why we have to watch the series. We've got to sort this out. So, Sarah Martindale, born in Brazil, has 2 children, runs one, and her husband runs one of the biggest rivals. So I think that's why you saw that scene where she said, I'm sleeping with the enemy. So there's going to be a lot of, rivalry, infighting. And then Kenny Sperry, also a Latter-day Saint, married with 3 children, and credits his faith to helping him through struggles earlier in life. So these guys are LDS, and this is their show, and this is what they're going to be doing. So I'm going to tune in for a couple episodes just to see. But to me, the interesting thing is I have not seen anything coming out against this. No more media statements, nothing like that. And I just found that to be kind of interesting. They're just kind of let this ride, or have they given up? What do you guys think?
I don't know. Maybe it could be subsumed in some of their earlier statements, which were somewhat generic.
Yeah, possibly.
Or these guys are successful business people, and we like that in Mormonism.
Yeah. And if they're faithful, they're paying tithing. This is the thing. Every billion-dollar house they sell, there's going to be some tithing there. So,
not to mention income from the show.
Income from the show. That's what I'm saying. So
my thought on this whole segment is I have learned with this and the mom talk and some of the other stuff that's happened. First off, very different than my Mormon experience.
Right.
At best, we were the best among us in my ward were low middle class, and the rest of us were something underneath that. And what I've learned over these stories is that if you have the more money you have in Mormonism, in a Mormon neighborhood, the nicer the neighborhood, the more income you've got, the more authentic you get to be, and the more ridiculous you get to be. And those are not a good mix. I mean, giving people space to be both authentic and ridiculous ends up with stuff like this.
Yeah, and I think about what we were covering over the summer about scenarios where, say, same-sex married couples were allowed to attend wards and given privileges that are not in other wards. Those were all affluent areas. So there does almost seem to be a different level of Mormonism that the rest of us were not really a part of at all. So, but I'm going to watch it, and I'm not dissing it. I'm saying, this is the kind of stuff you watch while you're on your treadmill, right? Just to see. So I will report back. One last little thing about the media, our very own Heather Gay of Bad Mormon. We all remember that, talk about the church fighting back. She is a real housewife of Salt Lake City, and she wrote a book a year or so ago called Bad Mormon, which is what she called herself on the show. I'm a bad Mormon. And the church fought her over that trademark, for all of her merch. Well, she's come out with a new book. This is Good Time Girl, where she's kind of come into her own. A lot of us got the chance to see her at Thrive in Utah County. There's a picture of, I know you can't tell us apart, but Heather's the one in the middle.
There's a similarity.
You think so? I don't know. I was making a joke, of course. And that's Landon, my co-host on the other side. But she was amazing. Like I didn't know much about her except for from The Housewives. She was incredible in her presentation that she gave, and she was just extremely down to earth and really interesting, her perspective on leaving Mormonism. And she said her first book she wrote right out of the gate, it kind of happened, her faith crisis, right on the program. Very interesting to watch. This new book is she's coming to her own, and she has a lot more things to say. So this drops, gosh, I think maybe just tomorrow or something, very, very soon. So grab a copy of this. Heather's wonderful, and we'll probably have more to talk about with her later going on. So, all right, enough media. Let's go on to another more meaningful story. I think we have Bill. This is a really interesting segment, I thought.
Yeah. So these were 2 different Salt Lake Tribune articles, sort of connected. They're doing a series at the moment, sort of juxtaposing Mormons and non-Mormons in the state of Utah and how it affects various things. Part 1 that they did was sort of neighbors and neighborhoods and how it affects kids playing together or neighbors getting along. This time around, the first article was LDS versus non-LDS divide. LGBTQ Utahns navigate complex dating, world and forbidden relationships. And then the second one was Utah's LDS versus non-LDS divide, how it complicates dating, sex, and the quest for lasting love. And I really enjoyed reading these 2 articles because I think what the Tribune did that for me is such a positive in a time where I don't see much of this. They gave examples of how people are navigating this divide, both in and out of the church, and giving people sort of a wide spectrum of things. So I think somebody reading this who is feeling a lot of shame about who they are might see path to walk in order to feel less shame and to be able to be more of themselves in the community. So I'll just note a few of them. One of the quotes was, in terms of people who are still practicing Mormons trying to keep up appearances within extended Mormon family, you'll see things like, instead of saying, I'm going out on a date or I'm seeing somebody, it's I'm hanging out with my friend, Fuller said. There's a shame, and there's a hiding to it. So the relationship is a little taboo. And I think we all know people, some of us included, like some folks in the audience will be doing this themselves, but you sort of have to give family and friends what they want to hear in order to be your authentic self and not have to deal with them giving you shame for living your life the way you do. Matt Fuller, a gay former Latter-day Saint, dates outside the Beehive State because he kept bumping into issues of secrecy and lack of openness. He said, I was exhausted trying to make it work here, Fuller said. He met his current boyfriend who lives in Washington, up in your neck of the woods, Mr. Radio Free Mormon. And he notes a social media platform, but they don't say it there. Threads in February. I guess that's what it is. That is a social media platform. Threads in February. That's strange. That was a much, much, much healthier stance for me to adopt than trying to play the dating game in Utah. So Matt dates outside the state in order to not deal with some of the repercussions of what it's like to do so in Utah.
I think maybe the social media platform name is Threads. And it was in February.
Gotcha. Okay. Threads in February is when he met. Okay. Thank you, RFM. Then Jennifer West says, the article says none of those sat well with West, so she went her own way, going out on dates with women on Saturdays and taking her place in the pews on Sunday. The article is juxtaposing the choice of either going to church or being an LGBT individual. And Jennifer West says, not going to do either of those. I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to do both. And she's glad that she listened. West and her partner have been together for more than 2 years now. They share a house, a trust, and a full life together, West said. One that includes church, but crucially, not sex or plans of marriage. Either would require them to forfeit their standing in the church, where West teaches lessons to her congregation's women's group. Her partner, meanwhile, is a volunteer temple worker. So here's a lesbian couple living together in a full partnership, but without sexuality, according to them. It's a difficult sacrifice, she conceded, but it's one that feels worth it to her.
Yeah. And it may be that happens even with women who are very well positioned in the church.
Yeah, they could even serve in general auxiliaries of the church and be doing something of the like.
Not that we're talking about anybody specific.
Yes, just hypothetically. Okay. Temple or bust. For Kendra Davis, a 34-year-old mechanical engineer living in Salt Lake City, the decision to date within her Latter-day Saint fold. So those articles were about LGBT folks trying to date in Utah amongst a Mormon population, some of them being Mormon themselves. The rest of this is about just Mormons and non-Mormons generally trying to date. For Kendra Davis, a 34-year-old mechanical engineer living in Salt Lake City, the decision to date within her Latter-day Saint fold wasn't because she thought it could never work out with someone with a different religious background. I knew that for me, Davis explained, my faith was important enough that I wanted to prioritize it and not put temple marriage at risk. So she, and there was no picture of her in the article, but she is only going to date temple-worthy Mormons so that she never falls in love with anybody. And what that means is that she's 34 years old. She has not had an opportunity yet to marry because she has the high bar of it being a faithful temple-worthy Mormon. Some Latter-day Saints need not apply was the name of this section. Some Utahns, on the other hand, have no interest in courting Latter-day Saints. Such is the case for Taylor Lay, a 20-year-old Utah Valley University student who grew up in Sandy and describes the state's dating scene in one word, tense. As a left-leaning, non-LDS person in Utah County, Lay said she doesn't date church members because she feels they don't share the same values. That's a nice way to turn it around, huh? It's often the Mormon who's saying, well, they don't have our values, so This is Taylor Lay saying, sorry, but the Mormons don't have my values. I just don't believe in going to a specific place to worship a god. And she also said, I don't really believe in organized religion. That's just not really my thing. And then Deanna Brown, one of the co-hosts of The Soloist, a podcast dedicated to life at the existentially chaotic intersection of Mormonism and not being married. By far the top reason she hears from women for dating outside the church is a sense that there just aren't enough active believing men to go around. The gender imbalance, Brown said, echoing Jackson, other person that was in one of the articles, means it just looks like a dead end to women. And we've already noted this on the newscast a few times, that in one of the church meetings, there was twice as many women in attendance as there was men. And so when it comes to a woman trying to find a worthy Mormon within the faith, it is slim pickings. And the article finished off with a section, and then there are the parents. For some Latter-day Saint parents, it can be less about this world and more about the next. Would there be an empty seat in their family's highest heaven? These couples may not speak up as their child becomes romantically involved with someone outside the fold, but they may, in fact, be white-knuckling it in private. On the flip side, parents of other Christians or non-believers fear that Latter-day Saints use a flirt-to-convert missionary tactic in which they lure unsuspecting partners and then pressure them to convert. Former Latter-day Saint Tom Merrill, the 40-year-old dad of two, said he's already at work inoculating his 9-year-old son and 13-year-old daughter against any possible future such attempts by some cute Latter-day Saint classmate or neighbor. It gives me anxiety, the Salt Lake City father said, to think about some really handsome, charismatic guy making my daughter his pre-mission project.
Well, Bill, surely nothing like that would ever happen. No Mormon would ever flirt to convert.
I'm a product of that. And I'll also say, I thought you were going to go somewhere else, which is surely nobody in our history was a really handsome, charismatic guy making passes at someone's daughter.
Well, you may have a point there. Back in my day, it wasn't the guys, it was the girls who were doing it. And it was called date 'em, dunk 'em, and drop 'em.
Yeah. And 26 years later. Okay. Now that's the end of my story. Back to you, Rebecca.
Back to me as I'm coughing like crazy. So yeah, this story, the other day I found on Faithful social media, a post from a woman who said, I'm over 40 and I've met a Christian man. I'm LDS, but I've met this man. He's got great Christian values. You know, he's really awesome. I want to know your opinion. Should I pursue this? And she just kind of put it out there to her online community. I was very pleased that so many people on this Faithful social media site said, go for love, go for children, go for a life partner, do it. You know what I mean? People said, I'm married in the temple to someone who is LDS. She now left. You never know what the future holds. Of course, there were the people that said, nope, temple is the only thing, right? There are those. But overall, people, I think, are starting to see that writing on the wall, that if you hold out and if you actually understand the demographics like we've talked about, you know, it's a losing battle. Choose love, choose life, choose kids, choose family, choose relationships, you know? So it's a real problem. I don't know. What have you guys seen as far as that changing at all, or anyone being aware? And I agree with you, Bill. The parents tend to hold people in check. I know older women that live at home with parents, and, you know, the parents would have none of them going out with somebody that wasn't LDS, and they had control over these women. So
just to represent the other side, those who do not go your way, Rebecca, they are choosing God and faith over everything else.
Oh, you're right. So sorry.
No. I'm not.
No, they are.
You.
I know they are. I know that. I understand that. Yeah. But I understand the perspective. I mean, I didn't get married till I was 26. That's really old in the LDS community at BYU, working on my master's, right?
I understand. What's wrong with you? Wendy Watson was even older than you when she got married.
Just barely.
And look how it panned out for her.
But I'm saying I do understand that, you know, where you realize, gosh, everyone else is doing this. I'm pretty much like everyone else. Why isn't it working out for me? You know? And then you just wonder, and I can only imagine getting past your 20s into your 30s. And I don't feel a lot of faithful people are aware of the demographic or the numbers. That's why stats are really important to me, right? It's kind of my soapbox, a soapbox item for me, because I feel people need to understand, the chances, what the dating pool really is, and then make a decision, like this woman on Faithful Social Media saying, I don't know, I like this guy. Should I pursue it? He said he's okay if I go to church. He can be a companion. Of course, then children, that's an issue too. Children get, that's a whole nother thing. How do you raise them? But it's a hot button issue and it's not going away. That's kind of what I think.
Even if you follow God in faith and insist on getting married in the temple to someone who does well, I mean, you could end up even so with chalky aftertaste in your mouth after a workout, Jake.
Is that our drinking game? Chalky aftertaste. There you go.
There's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee. And some of the people on this thread said that, I married someone in the temple and they ended up leaving. And it reminds me of a story. I don't know if I told it on the newscast before, but when I'd gone from BYU to a guy I was dating was going on a mission. So I'd gone to his hometown to go to his farewell and all of that. And while we were there was a wedding reception that was going to happen in their ward. So of course we went over to the building, and it was a girl who had just returned from her mission, like 6 months earlier. And in those days you went earlier. So she would have been over 23. And she was marrying someone who wasn't a member. And everybody in that ward was horrified. She knows better. She's a returned missionary. How could she do this? And I just remember thinking, you have those moments where you suddenly kind of become a little self-aware. And I was like, no, but she looks really happy. Look at the two of them. They're so cute. And you know what? Maybe this is her best option, and maybe it'll all work out in the end. Maybe it's okay. I was horrified to find out that I was not horrified like everyone else around me. In fact, I thought it was a beautiful event, and I was very happy for the girl, although I'd never met her. And I thought I would probably do the same thing. It was just one of those moments where I realized, cognitive thinking kind of kicked in there. But yeah, I'll never forget that. And that was decades ago.
I feel like you missed out on a valuable opportunity to be judgmental.
Yeah, I did. I tended to do that. I tended to be a divergent thinker, and I was not very judgmental. That was probably what was wrong with me. I don't know.
That's the main benefit of being a Mormon, is the ability to judge other people.
That's why I was not a very good Mormon. I'm so not judgy, I don't think. I hope I've never judged you. I judge you sometimes, RFM. I have to admit. I do, but never Bill. Never Bill.
I'll say, Rebecca, I'm with you. People should choose everybody gets to choose relationships where they want. But again, I was told you can marry more money in 10 minutes than you can make in a lifetime. So more power to all of you. But if you want a loving, healthy, great relationship, it seems like the best way to do that is human connection, compatibility. And I just have high doubts that both of you believing the same myth to be true is the greatest thing to build a relationship on.
Well, it is if you're a church leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're told it is. Anything else is superseded by that. It's a threesome with Jesus, right? That's what we're all told. That's all that matters.
Yum.
I know. All right. Let's move past dating onto our final story, which I think is mine. And now, because I was not here last week, and I was on my /sickbed/movie premiere evening.
Yes.
Did you guys talk very much about Fairview, or did you just kind of mention it, or did you mention it at all?
We did mention it. I'm glad that you reviewed it and caught up.
Okay. Yeah. I did not have a chance
I
to
actually
watch
brought
it.
up this slide from a prior show while Bill was talking about something else.
Okay.
And in order to compare the original square footage and height and everything to the announcement that you, by the way, broke, I think, about the resolution between the city and the church.
I did. I broke it, and I used the words win-win, which has gotten me in so much trouble. So I have to kind of explain what I meant by that, because I think anytime anybody can mediate and come to something that's closer than you were, it's certainly not there yet, but it's closer. To me, that is a win. And I was excited because I had heard a month or so ago, even, that there was a second plan, a drawing that they might be able to use. And I'd kind of given up hope because a month had gone on. And then suddenly to hear that all of a sudden, I did say, I said thank you to the LDS Church for doing something that seemed to be moving the needle in the right way. But I certainly didn't mean to allude that it was a done deal or over. And we're going to talk about that a little bit here tonight. And there's also going to be something that all of you can participate in tomorrow, which is going to be great. So if you've already seen these, we'll just go over very quickly the original proposal that we've been talking about for so long. 43,000 square feet, that 173-foot tall steeple and the 65 feet walls. Fairview Town Council and lawyers and representatives from the LDS Church met on November 18th. They came up with a new plan, which was then voted on a week ago by the Town Council that said, okay, we'll take a look at this, meaning it still has to go through all the processes that it did before, but it's closer than it was. So the new one, yes, the new drawing here, 30,000 square feet. So it's got a slightly smaller footprint. The walls are the main thing to me, coming down from 65 feet of those massive walls to 35 feet. That right there is a win to me. We're talking solid building down 20 feet. That's huge to me. And then this rather unusual spire on top, which is going to be 120-ish feet. It's going to have just one, like the last 10 feet of it are some kind of a pole. This is a very kind of rudimentary drawing, but this was part of the schematic that the city worked with as they said, okay, we'll vote on this and then we'll send it through all the meetings, get all the input from all the residents. That's the most important part, of course. It's kind of just at the beginning. Here's another drawing.
Can we go back to the last one for a second?
Yes.
Because Rebecca, I had seen a version of this where the spire was colored, flesh colored. Had you seen that one?
Yeah, it seemed like I saw that on your Facebook page, and I feel like somebody was trying to highlight it and chose a very unfortunate color, is what I think happened.
You have no idea who did that?
No, I don't know. Like I said, I've been flat down in bed for 2 weeks, and I feel like someone was just trying to highlight it, and it didn't work out. But anyway, we'll go on.
Okay.
Here's another drawing of it. More of a dome shape there, as you see.
It doesn't look so bad from this angle. Just a little bit off to the side. Doesn't quite look so bad.
No, it doesn't look so bad. And again, it's supposed to be similar in size and look to the Austin Temple, which is right here. And it has that dome on top of it. Although it does seem like the new McKinney rendering is a little taller. And again, we do not know what the name is. This is the question that we were asking. It could have a name change too. Wouldn't that be interesting if it was now the Fairview Temple or something like that? We don't know.
Someone had suggested perhaps the name should be the Boner Palace.
Well, I've heard, yes, the Phallus Palace. There have been some different names. And again, I'm not exactly sure. I've shown this rendering. Again, the dimensions, that's moving the needle in a positive direction. But I've shown this drawing I'm actually friends with 2 former church architects. Lucky me. Wow. I've shown it to both of them, and they both kind of said, yeah, there are better things to do with, that kind of height and more symmetrical. And they weren't exactly thinking that this was some of the best work.
It really draws the eye to the steeple, I think. Is it true that there are plans for a fountain? A small fountain at the top of the steeple?
I feel there could be plans for a small fountain at the top of the steeple. And wouldn't that be a tourist attraction? Wouldn't that get them the notoriety?
When the church was talking about the temple spire pointing our view to God, I thought they meant like with a finger.
They were never specific about the body part. They simply said, draws your eyes to and points to God. They never said exactly what it was. So
I'm excited about attending the temple. That's all I can say.
Yes, I've heard that joke about 200 times. So we will see.
Was it as good as when I said it?
No joke is as good as
I really sold that one.
You did sell it. Anyway, all right. So let's read a little bit about this from the Tribune. A lot of people have been covering it. In a rare mediation, the LDS Church compromises with town in disputed temple design. The decision shortens the steeple and shrinks the overall size, but the new plan is meeting with mixed reactions.
There was shrinkage.
Of course it is. There was shrinkage, but not really enough shrinkage. That's exactly right. So in the Tribune, great article by Tamara. She does a great job. It says a month-long quarrel between the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the leadership of a Texas town over a proposed temple appears to be at an end, at least for now. That's exactly it. This is just on pause. The 2 parties announced separately this week that they came to an agreement during mediation over a new shrunken version of the temple planned for Fairview, a Dallas suburb of 10,000, around 10,000 people, known for its acreage-sized lots and wide open skies. We are grateful to the town officials from Fairview that they were willing to discuss the concerns of the community with church representatives. Church spokesman Sam Penrod, right? It's never going to be Aaron. Never going to be Aaron. Said in a statement, and we were able to reach an agreement to move forward. Okay. I mean, this just happened, you guys. It just happened. Indeed, in a statement of his own, Mayor Henry Lessner, previously a vocal opponent, said the town council had given the new design its unanimous approval. We appreciate the efforts of all those involved in working together in good faith to try to produce a compromise solution that will protect the town's character and zoning laws, Lessner added, while at the same time allowing the church to construct the temple at its chosen site. Again, everybody wants the temple built. We just have to work out those pesky details. Let's see. Let's go to the next slide here. In the meantime, Lessner told the Salt Lake Tribune on Wednesday, pushback against the smaller version is already brewing from residents who are struggling to understand why religious organizations just can't follow our ordinances like everyone else has to. Well, that is the age-old question, isn't it? Others, he continued, wondered why a temple with its exclusive membership doesn't have to pay property taxes, a common federal exemption granted to religious institutions for their places of worship.
Are any of the residents wondering why there's a giant boner on top of the new temple?
You know, no one has said that yet. However, I feel this will come up. I feel this will arise. I feel this will be a topic of conversation tomorrow.
I hope so. It's like the VHS cover for the original, what was it? The Little Mermaid?
Yep, the Little Mermaid. Yep.
Cover art.
It had the pillars and everyone's like, oh my God.
Yes,
yep.
At least there the erection was kind of hidden.
Yep.
Here it's right out in the open.
Yep, Disney is notorious. Yeah, exactly. It's true.
Oh my gosh. Did you hear what Bill just said?
No, what did you say? Sorry.
Say it again.
We will go down, Jehovah.
Oh God. This is just jumping the shark as we speak right here. So all right, here we go. Let's go on. So Discord already, or just people saying, wait a minute, what about this, that? I mean, these guys have been in this for a long time. They are battle weary. Think about all the meetings that, you know, we've live streamed, that we've followed, that we've reported on. And these people live this every day. They're there. I mean, it's just, I would say just battle weary. Let's see. Joel, a Fairview resident who shares a property line with the proposed temple, said that the deal left him with mixed feelings. That's a very honest reaction. The proposed mediated specifications still do not strictly adhere to the town of Fairview's ordinances, the previously staunch opponent noted, in particular concerning the building and the steeple height. And again, I agree with Joel. I think the walls is a win, down to 35 feet. That's the same as the stake center. The footprint 30, that's fine. It's that dang steeple, 120 feet. It's just too tall. I'll repeat Nemo. He said the same thing. Too tall. That's exactly it. Town ordinances cap the building size in residential zones like the one the temple is slated for at 35 feet. Besides the steeple, the structure itself will reach 45 feet in some places. So it'll be a little variety in the roof. But again, not that 65 that they were trying to pull. And remember how they were trying to say that God insisted that they have the mass of the walls. They were trying to throw everything in, right? Yeah. That it was part of their religious worship. Even so, Joel Dean.
This was a temporary commandment.
It was obviously a temporary commandment. There are so many of those now. I can't even keep track. The new proposal is worth reviewing. And he says the mistake would be to make hasty conclusions or litigious solutions based on historical emotions and outdated facts. And I think that's a very level-headed way to look at it. You know, obviously this is going to have to go through the entire process and everybody's going to be heard. But I think Joel is thinking, okay, look, we're closer. You know, we're closer. We're not there yet, but we're closer. And I think you guys, and I know, I mean, this is unheard of. They don't move.
Right.
The only time they move is when they don't have the power, which is what happened in Fairview. They did not have the power and they had to play this card. There's a letter.
I think it's a huge win for Fairview. Rebecca, can you go back to the last slide? Because once again,
certainly.
This fellow bottom picture in the middle of the lawyers. Yeah. What's his name again? Do you remember?
Which one?
The one in the middle.
Is that Rainey? I can't remember. Is it the?
I can't remember, but the one in the middle who has a very displeased look on his face?
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason why he's unhappy, I found out, is because he wasn't allowed to bring his giant scythe into the meeting. He had to check it outside with the
You had to
police.
check it at the door. That's exactly it. So there's a lot of information that's been put out now about, you know, the mediation and the new plan and everything. If I could, even what I printed out is too small. RFM, can you just read very quickly?
No
the
chance
letter?
in hell.
You can't read it?
What are you talking about? Okay.
I can't read it. It's too small.
It says, Dear Fairview residents, the purpose of this letter is to share an update with you regarding the temple proposed by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Boners. As you know, the town has been engaged in a mediation. What happened?
It's gone. There it is.
Oh, as you know, the town has been engaged in a mediation process with the church concerning their plans for a temple in our community. Yeah, as you know, I am pleased to report that we have reached an initial compromise that can be put forward to the community, period. Let me stress that this proposal must still go through our normal zoning process with input from our citizens, so please don't throw rocks at us yet. The memorandum of settlement calls for the church to decrease the temple's overall height by approximately 54 feet and to reduce the size of the building from 2 stories to 1. The newly proposed temple would be around 30,000 square feet. Most of the 1-story building conforms with the town's current zoning regulations for the property with a building height of 35 feet. A smaller raised portion on top of the building increases the height of that section to 45 feet, and a tower on top reaches no more than 120 feet. Do you think they're calling it a tower to hark back to the Methodist Church?
I feel like that is an issue still. Yes.
The church's original proposal called for constructing a 45,000 square foot, 65 foot tall 2-story building with a steeple and spire reaching almost 174 feet. On Monday, our town council agreed unanimously to approve the non-binding settlement agreement that would permit the church to submit a new proposal consistent with the settlement agreement, which would go before the Planning and Zoning Commission and then would return to the council for consideration. Now that's weird because it just did that. Here we go. For consideration. The council will hold a workshop session with residents to review the settlement agreement and to hear comments. The workshop will be held in conjunction with the regular town council meeting on Tuesday, December 3rd, that starts at 7:30 p.m. The meeting will be live streamed for any who want to watch the discussion, which is what we'll be doing live tomorrow night, unless, of course, the aliens from outer space actually do invade tomorrow, as they've been predicting.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, odds are it's not going to happen.
We'll see.
We appreciate the efforts of all those involved in working together in good faith to try to produce a compromise solution that will protect the town's character and zoning laws, while at the same time allowing the church to continue the temple at its chosen site. We look forward to the upcoming meetings and hearing your thoughts on the resolution of this issue. Henry Lesner, Mayor of the town of
There
Fairview.
it is. Thank you so much for reading that. So yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. And we'll just go through what's going to happen next, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do tomorrow night that you guys can participate in. So the next thing, exactly what we're talking about, is going to be Tuesday, December 3rd. It'll be 6:30 Mountain Time. There's a workshop session in conjunction with the town council meeting to review the new plan and hear comments. Going forward in February on the 13th, there'll be the planning and zoning meeting. And in March on the 4th, there's going to be the town council meeting where they will vote. That's way in the future. But as far as tomorrow, there it is. We are on the newscast. And I'm actually, usually we drop a Mormonish episode on Tuesday. But because while I was sick, I had to literally reschedule 7 guests. We're going to use this as our nightly Mormonish episode. Besides, where would our viewers want to be? But here we are going to live stream this Fairview Town Council meeting. We're going to start at 6, just so we can give some background and commentary. It's not the first item on the agenda, but I've been assured that it's pretty close to the top. And we're just going to watch as the town council members discuss the decision they made to vote unanimously with this new plan, maybe give some new information from behind the scenes as far as what went into that decision. And then we'll be able to hear from some of the residents, their concerns, things that they want to bring up and talk about in relation to the new Redesign. So you guys can all look for that. It'll be on Mormon discussions. It'll be on Mormonish. It'll be everywhere. And you guys can just tune in and check out what's going on. I think this will be one of the most important meetings. I mean, I never believed we would get to this point where there was something different on the table and that they'd be discussing it. So are you guys excited for tomorrow? I think it'll be really interesting.
I'm very excited about tomorrow. Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
No, I just want to note this had the old thumbnail, so it did say Monday, December 2nd. I put up the new one to Tuesday, December 3rd.
Okay.
I want to, if you guys don't mind me chiming in,
No, please.
I'm curious, didn't the church just damage its legal argument if this does go further? Think about this. They claim that God came in and told them the steeple has to be a certain height.
Yep.
Then they send their negotiator to an arbitration meeting, and the church gives a compromised plan that says, here's what we'll do to meet you in the middle. Like, now you already have God wavering. Now you have God changing his mind. You have God going like, well, at first I told you this is the way it had to be, but these guys are just so not so nice and they're so persistent that now I'm giving plan B. Wouldn't it be hard now to go into a court of law and argue that God needed your temple to be in a certain specific size, which would then make it so that it didn't really matter what size it was? It seems like God has no problem adjusting.
Yeah, and that was my first thought. What about the steeple doctrine? What do faithful members right now who went to those meetings, the woman who held up a picture of a Boston temple without a steeple and said her marriage there was diminished without the steeple, does it even enter their thought? Wow, we were told to say this a month or so ago, like absolutely say it, right? With every fiber of our being. And now that seems to be gone. It's a new height, like you have, quite a bit lobbed off the top. I don't know how you would justify that or think about that, or if you even would think about it. But that was my first thought.
If I were an apologist, I would bring up the Old Testament example of Abraham successfully negotiating with Jehovah.
That's a very good argument. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll hear, like I said, this meeting tomorrow night, I'm sure there'll be a lot of members there, and they'll probably say things like, our church, gave the concession. We're being the nice guy. And there is the danger of that. Do they look like the nice guy? If the residents say still not good enough, or if the town council has said that, does that make them not look reasonable? It's a very delicate political balance, I think.
Yeah, to me, it's not so much about looking reasonable. To me, it's about winning.
Yeah.
And right now, the city of Fairview has a big win on their hands. And all they have to do to cement the win is treat it like a win. If they treat it like a loss, it will be seen as a loss.
Yeah.
So you declare victory, Fairview, you leave the field, and you say, we won against the LDS church.
Yeah, I'd like the steeple to come down still. I'd like it to be shorter if there was a way to do that. But we'll see at the meeting. There's a lot of dynamics behind the scenes that we are not aware of because we don't live in Fairview. So it'll be really interesting. All right, a couple more things on this topic really quickly. All right. Okay, so we got some other temple building towns that we follow, right? What do they think? What do you think Vegas thinks hearing all of a sudden that the church went into a non-binding mediation and actually changed the square footage and brought the walls down by 20 feet and changed that spire? Well, I'll tell you what they think. The LDS Church reaches a deal with Texas town. Nevada residents now request a similar meeting, right?
Too late for you guys. Sorry.
Where's my meeting is what they're going to say.
Yeah.
So,
You're not getting a meeting, Nevada.
Exactly. So they say Lone Mountain community members in the Las Vegas Valley are asking the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to mimic a good faith deal struck by a Texas town council and the religious leaders, which would reduce the proposed temple's height and size there in Lone Mountain. That's a beast there. That is a massive temple. The compromise in Texas astonished some residents of the Las Vegas community of Lone Mountain. And this is true. I was texting all my temple friends in all the cities, and they're like, what? They couldn't believe it. Who said that they were hoping for a similar chance at mediation, but noticed the stark difference from Fairview. It's wonderful for the citizens of Fairview, said Sue Christensen, a Lone Mountain resident. Unfortunately for us in Vegas, I don't think they are going to be forced to the table, and we'll return to that word. 8 News reached out, but representatives of the LDS Church did not respond for this story. Then it talks about the members of the church hoping, that it's going to be a heaven on earth and have a wonderful garden and all of that. And I do know in Cody that reporters are reaching out and putting a story together as other residents weigh in. But that word forced is interesting. I feel like, and this is probably simplistic, but in Fairview, it's a place where, for whatever reason, the LDS Church didn't really have very much power. They didn't have an inside guy who'd been confusing things behind the scenes as far as voting, like there was in Cody. They didn't have campaign contributions that allegedly, whatever that meant, changes in zoning and things like that. They didn't have any of that in Cody. They had a solid council, town council. They had solid organized citizens. And so I feel like none of these other towns will get a meeting like that because there's no need to. The church did what they had to do in Fairview, which may be seen as the right thing, as they come closer in what will make everybody happy. But I think they only did it because they had to. What do you guys think?
Well, they didn't have to any more than the city had to. But what they did was they did a cost benefit analysis, whether that's actual money or whether it's reputation or PR. And both sides decided that they would come to the table and agree to this mediation. It's a good idea. The difference in Las Vegas, they already caved. They already gave it away. The city council already voted to approve the church's behemoth temple there. They're past it. They're past the point of no return. Same thing in Cody, even though it may have been arrived at by unlawful methods, and even though that issue is yet to be decided by the Supreme Court there in Wyoming, correct, Rebecca?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it is. It's their case. Yeah. The Cody residence has been accepted by the Supreme Court, and it is moving forward. So
that story's not done yet.
Yeah. And I think I have a picture to kind of illustrate. Yeah, here we go in Cody. This is what they're doing. My friends there right across the street are saying they are building very quickly. They are trying to get a lot done very quick, already there. I think maybe before the case goes to the Supreme Court, trying to get cement in, before the ground freezes. So they're working like little bees really fast. But again, that case is there, headed for the Supreme Court. But no, there's going to be no mediation there with the church. They don't have to do that.
But Las Vegas is done. It's a done deal. Cody, pending the ruling from the Supreme Court, which may change things, is a done deal, other than that possibility, because they already agreed to it.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, being forced to the table, Bill, or doing the right thing, or doing the thing you have to do, or?
My only thought goes back to the Fairview situation. Like, I agree with you, RFM. They can treat it like a win. Also, there's a piece of me that would love for one of these cities to just say the hell with it. Let's take these guys all the way, and let's see what happens when the highest levels of the court system have to decide whether you can justify anything in the name of religious freedom. Because I think that has far-reaching repercussions for a whole bunch of other things.
I hear what you're saying, but let me go back a little bit, okay? Because in Fairview, the city, it was going to cost them millions and millions and millions of dollars to appeal this thing, and it could have gone all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they could have lost. Even if they win, they lose.
Mm-hmm.
But the facts in that case were very good for the city. Then the lawyers for the church went into a huddle, and they came back with this alternative proposal. And if the city had denied this alternative proposal, the facts would not have been as good for the city on appeal. So
yeah,
that's
it could be a long game. It could be a long game. And I think we'll find out more about what happened in those meetings tomorrow night, Tuesday, December 3rd, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, when we're going to be live streaming this. So I'll say one last thing that I just found out right before we came on the newscast, and I love to share and speak Temple news. And again, you're right. Some of these towns, they may take it to the top. So this is your neck of the woods kind of RFM. This is the Tacoma Temple, which we announced on the newscast, I think before anyone else last summer, that it was going to be in Federal Way, Washington. It's going to be right next to the, you know where it is, RFM.
Wild Waves Water Park on I-5.
Water Park, which led to a lot of jokes about baptisms and washing and anointings and all kinds of things. When I came out to visit you, RFM, I drove right through the area. There's a high school and the Magic Waves, no, Wild Waves. I keep calling it Magic Waves.
Magic Mountain.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, the Tacoma, Washington LDS Temple is located at 1405 South 364th Way and Federal Way near a water park. It's moved to the next phase of building by submitting its pre-application to the town of Federal Way. And according to this submittal, the size of the temple that they've submitted, now this is not a drawing. I do not have the schematic. This is the original McKinney Temple, but it's the same size. You've got the 173-foot steeple. You've got the 43-foot square foot footprint. I haven't heard about the walls, but it sounds like it's almost like they said, we can't build it here. Let's kick on up to Washington State and build it there. I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm hoping to get the schematic soon. Again, this is not the picture of the Federal Way Temple, but it's a picture of a similar sized temple, the former McKinney Temple. Now, what I find very interesting, and
what is that?
That's my idea. Yeah, that's my idea right there. So this is what I find interesting, that they're in Federal Way. According to the city there, the subject property is zoned single-family residential, for which the church use has a maximum building height of 30 feet above the average building elevation. So how tall is a typical house in Tacoma area, Federal Way area? I mean,
I guess 25 feet at the most.
They're not like here in Utah where you've got 6-story houses. These are more single level. So we're talking add 30 feet to that. And here it says no taller than 55 feet pursuant to the special, certain special conditions. So I didn't list them out here, but I did read through them. And I had my co-host Landon, his occupation is in building, read through them. And sure, there was a little bit of wiggle room for religious iconography that can go slightly higher, but it kept saying no taller than 55 feet. So it sounds to me that unlike Fairview, as we learned very early on when the church lawyers said, your zoning and ordinances are a little more wiggly, right? They're not locked down. They're wiggly. You have that bell tower precedent that's up there 154. It's not as set in stone as others. I believe Prosper, where the Fairview Temple was first announced, I believe their ordinances were pretty set in stone because the church handed them a packet. The temple was supposed to be built there first. And I think when the city handed the church a packet, here's our zoning. And very quickly, the church moved over to Fairview. So I wonder about Federal Way. And I hope that maybe some of our viewers are familiar with the area, or familiar with the town, or would like to go on the town's website or do a little bit of digging in, because we're just at the beginning of this process where they've introduced the design. The next step will be notifying residents around the area, having that first initial meeting. If you remember the first initial meeting in Fairview, they told everyone they were going to sue them and use RLUIPA. That was the first interaction that the Fairview residents had with the church. So I'm just throwing this out there because I'm curious, because reading through these codes, they seem to be pretty solid. So this will be interesting to watch.
Yeah, a lot of people have questions about Federal Way. Speaking from experience, if you know where SeaTac Airport is, this location is not that far from SeaTac.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll see. Again, it's just something new to follow. It's another temple that's on another step, and they are asking in a place where it clearly says 55 feet, they are asking and submitting a design for 173 feet. So what do you think that means?
I think what it means is they already have their Chinese manufacturers have already produced the prefab model that was originally for Fairview. So now they got to stick it somewhere else.
That's possible. And I do understand there is a member of the church on the town council. Whether that makes a difference or not, I don't know.
Oh,
but,
you don't think it would make a difference? Did it make a difference in Cody?
I'm being very,
Yes.
alleged. I'm being very middle of the road. You know what I think.
But that member of the church in Cody really screwed it over.
That was a problem. Inside guy, contributions, there's all kinds of formulas.
Giving false information to the rest of the city council. They voted yes, and then they found out, wait a second, what did we just sign here?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, even when they begged, we want to change our vote. We didn't understand what we were voting for. Too late. You can't change your vote. We all learned that the hard way. So anyway, lots of interesting temple things to follow, and we'll just see what happens. And I will say that, with so many temples announced, 367, 200 dedicated, 160 temples, 67 temples left to be built. Previously, building maybe at the most 8 a year. Not enough, not enough. I do know things are in the works behind the scenes to streamline that process. We are going to see an incredible avalanche of temples, and we are going to see these scenarios over and over and over again. It will be impossible to miss. So everybody pay attention in your towns, pay attention to what's been announced, get involved in your city government. Just, be in the know. That's all I'm trying to say.
And if you see a temple that's in the works where you live or close to where you live, know that Rebecca Biblioteca and Mormonish have the goods on these people. And how is that website going on which you have that information, that warehouse of information?
Still working on that. It's been a little slow go in the fall, but we are trying to put together something with the help of Messiah, who's amazing. That would be something that any town could just log on to, and just information, not pro, not con, just saying this is what happened in my town, or this is something you might want to look at. And I think that'd be really helpful. But I have heard that, mayors are starting kind of to talk behind the scenes to other mayors, things like that. People are reaching out to other towns that have been in the news with temple building. And I think that's interesting when people come together and try to say, what can we do that's going to be best for our town and the LDS church? Everybody wants a temple. Let's just get it built in the best possible way, or the best possible good, and the least possible hurt feelings or ruptured community relations for everybody. There it is. I think we did it.
Some of the people in Fairview, some of the citizens in Fairview are not happy about this resolution.
Oh, no, not at all. No. And their voice needs to be heard. And that's what tomorrow's for. And that's what the process all the way up to the spring is for. Absolutely. It is not a done deal whatsoever. It's just one thing that says, okay, we're a little closer. That's it. But it needs to come down. It needs to be.
That's why I'm going to be joining you guys tomorrow. I'll be
That's right.
here because I want to hear the disgruntled citizens.
Yep. I want to hear, I wouldn't even call them disgruntled. I want to hear the property owners, the citizens. I want to hear what they have to say because they have a right to say it. Absolutely. So yeah, this will be quite the meeting, guys. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. We'll be doing some pre-commentary, and then we'll dive right into the meeting. So one last thing we wanted to mention is that also tomorrow is Giving Tuesday. I hope you guys are all paying attention to this because, I know everybody's so generous all the time, but Giving Tuesday is the day that we should call it Giving Tuesday Declaration, right? Since most of us don't go to tithing declaration anymore, but it's a chance to, kind of look at, what movements do you follow? What groups, what organizations mean something to you and make your life better, and go ahead and make a donation. So there's so many opportunities out there tomorrow. We encourage you to jump on social media and look at all the different campaigns that so many different kinds of groups have going on tomorrow. And if anybody wants to, of course, jump on and make some kind of a donation to those of us here on the Mormon Newscast. We have myself over at donorbox.org/Mormonish podcast. And we have Bill and RFM on donorbox.org/the-Mormon-Newscast. So easy to do that. We also always have links in our show notes on how to do that. But yeah, we hope you guys will get out and really, make donations to things you care about. Anything you guys would like to say to your amazing viewers and listeners. We thank all of you so much for your support in every way throughout the year. My viewers and listeners texted me out of my deathbed. It's what they did. So you guys are just amazing.
I just want to say thank you to everybody who supports Mormon Discussion, the entity, the nonprofit, in the podcast we have under it, Radio Free Mormon, Mormonism Live, Mormonism After Dark now, the Mormon Newscast as a part of that. And you can show us, for those of you who have never donated before, you can show your appreciation and join the team by going to those links, whether it's supporting Rebecca, whether it's supporting RFM and myself. This is how we're able to put the time and energy in on the daily and weekly to bring you tons of content, 3-4 shows a week at this point. If you're Radio Free Mormon, you can show him your appreciation, you show Rebecca your appreciation by going to those links and donating to their work. And that way, for years into the future, we can continue to put out content and hold Mormonism and hold the LDS Church accountable to what it says and does and what it's doing in the here and now.
Yep, perfectly
Thank
said.
you, Bill. Do you have any ideas about what we'll be doing on Mormonism Live Wednesday, if I'm not cutting in on you, Rebecca?
No, that was our next slide. And I was going to remind everybody that Mormonish will just be this live stream of the town council meeting because there's no episode that's going to top that. So that will be Mormonish tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Mountain Time.
And then Wednesday, Mormonism Live we were going to do this a few weeks ago, and then that Ben Spackman video came out, and RFM and I just decided that needed some attention. But due to what we covered on the newscast regarding this, it sparked me doing some research. I've got a bit of information here. RFM and I will present to you on Mormonism Live Wednesday at 6:20 p.m. Mountain Time. Did the LDS Church support the Nazis? And we'll go into detail there. And we look forward to seeing each of you then.
Is it okay if I bring up just by way of tease the reason that we're bringing this up, and a lot of people may say the answer to this is obvious. The reason we're bringing it up is because of a recent Deseret News or Church News article downplaying and basically denying the interactions or support of the LDS Church with the German government and the Nazis in the 1930s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it as an inoculation article because there has been a lot of buzz with, Huebner anniversary and Escape from Germany movie coming out, All Faithful, and they really do downplay it. And so, the members are kind of watching, and I think it's an inoculation article where they have to be able to understand, why would they have kind of been behind the Nazis? Well, you guys are going to tell the true story. So.
Well, thank you. How about you've got that? Any other projects you've got coming up in the near future, Rebecca?
Oh, I'm sure we'll have a new episode out on Friday. We're back in the swing of things. And like I said, I had to bump like 7 guests. Oh my gosh. So I've got a lot of podcasting to do, but yep, all good stuff. But I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night. I think it's going to be very educational for everybody. And I mean, I don't even know what to expect, honestly, but it's going to be really good. Yep, I think that's it. Are we done? Did we do it? Nothing else?
That's it.
I think we're done. All right, let's say goodbye now. Bye, Bill. Bye, RFM. Bye, everybody from the Mormon Newscast. Till next Monday. Thanks, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Gordon B. Hinckley here. That's a wrap for this week's edition of the Mormon Newscast. We appreciate you tuning in and sharing this time with us. Keep the conversation going and stay informed on all things Mormonism. Until next week, wishing you peace and joy. See you next Monday at 6 p.m. on the Mormon Newscast. And remember, Mormon was a good word before it was a bad one. # Hinckley was a better prophet.